So this is the quote: refuse illegal orders. That's the message from a handful of powerful Democrats, all with military or intelligence backgrounds, who want service members to know their rights, they say, when it comes to strikes that they deem unlawful.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
All right, so the world's largest aircraft carrier is now stationed in the Caribbean as part of Operation Southern Spear. The U.S. military has targeted 21 suspected drug boats, killing at least 82 alleged smugglers. Tommy Lahren is here, but first to one of the Democrats in that video, Colorado Congressman Crow, former Army Ranger and Bronze Star recipient. Thank you very much, Congressman, for joining us today. You see some of the pushback to this video when some look at it and say, you know, if you are in the United States military, you sign up, you carry out the mission that is assigned to you. You know, the other option is to not join the military or to leave if you feel that you can't carry out an order. But the command is just an integral part of what you sign up for, which you know way better than I do, and I thank you for your service. So, Congressman, thank you for being here. Why did you participate in this video?
Martha, we're standing by our troops, our service members, who are often put in very difficult positions, and Donald Trump has put them in very difficult positions and has alluded to putting them in even more difficult positions in the months and years ahead. So we are reminding folks about what the Uniform Code of Military Justice says, what the Constitution says, what the law of war says. You know, this is really no different than what I did with my infantry platoon in advance of deploying to Iraq in 2003. I trained these young soldiers on their obligation to comply with the law of war, to comply with the Constitution, and what is a lawful versus a unlawful order.
What law are you talking about that's being broken? And then you said that he's implying that he might do something that they wouldn't want to uphold or follow through with in the future. What are you talking about specifically?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. Well, number one, the protests at Lafayette Square in the first Trump administration, where he said, can't you just shoot them? Can't you just shoot them in the legs or something? That's his direct quote. And of course, the then chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff pushed back on that.
That was not a military order. That was a comment. That's not a military order.
When that's coming from the President of the United States to your generals, don't you think that's a request? That's
I'm
a question?
Asking specifically right now what you're talking about.
Yeah, number two, he's also threatened to send the military into Chicago and other cities to, quote, go to war with those cities. Right? That is a very, very disturbing thing. Number three, he's also alluded to sending troops to polling stations, which is actually a violation of U.S. law. U.S. criminal law prohibits troops from going to polling stations, and he's alluded to that. So those are just one of many examples.
You're talking about
Donald Trump
illusions. You're not talking about actual policy. You're not talking about things that are members of our service members who we revere and respect are actually being asked to do. So when you see this video on all over the place, when you see this video on social media, I think a lot of people scratch their heads and they say, what exactly are they talking about? Are they talking about
Martha,
not allowing gunboats to make it to the United States carrying drugs?
No.
Is that what you're talking about?
Martha, here's a novel idea. How about we actually prevent things from happening before they become a problem?
I think that's what they're trying to do.
What you're saying is we have to wait until there's a problem to respond to that problem.
No, I'm not.
Right? As a military officer, what I think is important is we train people, we give them information, we prepare people for challenges coming down the pike. That is what I did as a commander in the military. That's what I'm doing now, as we are standing by our troops. We are reminding them of their obligation.
Order from the commander-in-chief that we are asking our military to carry out are you objecting to? This is very, very vague. And it was so vague in this video. I don't think people could figure out what you guys were all talking about, honestly.
Martha, Donald Trump has made a series of very disturbing comments and suggestions that would violate U.S. law and put our military in terrible positions.
Again, we're getting nowhere because you're not talking about an order.
I don't want to wait until that happens to remind our troops of their obligation, because then it will be too late. We are standing
So-
by our troops and our amazing men and women in uniform to remind them
who
of
sign
what
up
the
every
Uniform
day as
Code of
you did
Military
to carry out
Injustice
the
is.
orders of the commander-in-chief. We are not engaged in new wars. We have no troops on the ground in Ukraine except some who were training pilot missions, not on any front lines of any kind. In the Caribbean right now, we've sent a carrier there. And I thought these were the specific operations that are actually happening that you might be referring to. But we've created a huge presence in the Caribbean to stop fentanyl deaths, of which there were more than 48,000 plus in the last year alone. And the president doesn't want those drugs to make it to the United States. But you're not talking about any of these actual actions that have been carried out by the commander-in-chief and by the Department of Defense?
First of all, that is a separate issue. We are not talking about Venezuela at all in this video. We never mentioned it once.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
But since you raised it, I actually am deeply concerned. We spent $3 trillion, 7,000 U.S. lives, hundreds of thousands of other lives in endless wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. They ended extremely poorly because we stopped
Under Joe
debating
Biden.
it. We stopped paying for it.
Yep.
We stopped
That was the
being
prior
held accountable
administration.
for it.
Yeah.
Well, that was Republicans
I don't remember
and
you making a
Democrats.
video about that at the
Martha,
time.
Actually, you should look it up. I did make videos about it, as a matter of
Okay.
fact. I pushed back on Joe Biden. I pushed back on Donald
Okay.
Trump. I pushed back on Barack Obama. I pushed back on George W. Bush because I had to fight those wars.
But at least that was something specific.
And I am thinking very clearly about the men and women who are being put in positions that, once again, without congressional authorization, without public debate, to do the same thing. Have we learned nothing about the last 25 years
I
of
think
war
that
and
what
endless
this
conflict?
president has said is that he has not taken us to war, that he wants to prevent war, that he wants to extract us from situations where we've said from the beginning that we won't have
Really?
any boots on the ground
Bombing
in Ukraine.
Iran,
So I think
bombing
it's a little
the
bit.
Houthis, bombing boats in the Caribbean. This president
So we
doesn't see a
aided a
problem he
mission
doesn't
by
think he can bomb his way
Israel
out
in
of.
Iran. Did you have a problem with taking out Iranian nuclear facilities?
We've seen more conflict and more use in the military in the first 11 months of this administration than we have in any administration. What needs to happen is they need to come to Congress, and we need to debate this. And for him to say there's no new war, that's exactly the problem, because only Congress can declare a war. Only Congress, according to our Constitution, has the authority to send our men and women into conflict.
We understand the War Powers Act. We know how it works.
Well, apparently you don't, because you're saying
that's not
that
true.
no war exists, so it's not a problem. The United States Congress is the one that has to make that
specifically
decision.
what your issue is. And so for prominent members of the United States Congress to tell young men and women of the military that they should not abide by illegal orders and to leave it so vague and to talk about comments that have been made in the past and what they might lead to, I think could potentially be very confusing for young men and women who have committed to service, which you honorably did, and I commend you for the sacrifice that you made. Let me just show you this. This is Senator Eric Schmitt.
I'm going to respond to that.
Go ahead.
Military service is tough. It's really tough.
I don't doubt it.
We send our men and women into very difficult, very sometimes untenable situations. I know that. I've been in those situations. That's why moral clarity, that's why reminding people about what their obligations are, that's why abiding by the law and providing guidance and training them in advance is important. You can never wait until there's a problem to train people and prepare them for that.
Well,
it's really important that we set the conditions right now to make sure that people understand their constitutional obligations. And we are only talking about unlawful orders versus lawful orders.
Right.
That is the
you just haven't
distinction
outlined what any specific unlawful order. This is Senator Eric Schmitt that he released on X. This is what he said. At the end of the day, he's speaking about the members of Congress who did this video. They're mad at the American people that the American people chose Trump, and now they're calling on the military and intelligence community to intervene. Sounds a little, quote, subversive to democracy-ish, says Senator Eric Schmitt. So let me give you a moment to respond to that, Congressman.
Yeah, I mean, that's so patently false and absurd. I don't even know how to respond to it. What we are doing is reminding people of their obligations under federal law and under the UCMJ in no different way than I did when I was an infantry officer and an infantry lieutenant preparing my soldiers to be deployed. It is as simple as that. So people, that's unfortunate that in politics these days, people grab something and twist it and contort it and lie.
Some might say that
make it into
you have
something
grabbed
it's
something
not.
and twisted it and contorted it. You have, you're talking to young members of the American military, and you're not telling them specifically what it is they should see as illegal. So you're putting ideas into their head that maybe they're being asked to do something illegal. And what we're seeing actually is recruitment rising. And people wanting to join the military under the president.
Here's an interesting fact for you, Martha. Our men and women actually are very smart, very incredible men and women in our military. And
you don't have to tell me that.
Well, apparently I do.
No, you don't, sir. I have great respect for the United States military.
Well, you don't think they can handle a reminder about federal law and the UCMJ, is what I'm hearing. And a recent survey showed that 8 out of 10 service members deeply understand their obligation of lawful orders, right? 8 out of 10. So we want to get that. That should be 10 out of 10. But this is something that they're trained on. Go and look at the training. Maybe even go and participate or observe some of the training that our men and women go through. It is incredible. We expect a lot of these men and women. They go through very intense, rigorous training because they're put in intense, rigorous positions. And frankly, I bristle at the notion that they can't handle a suggestion or a reminder of what the law requires them to do and what the Constitution requires them to do. You actually disparage them when you say that a simple reminder is something they cannot handle.
You're wrong. You're 100% wrong. I didn't disparage them in any way. In fact, I give them enormous credit.
You don't think they can handle reminders about their legal obligations?
I think these men and women certainly can handle it. If it was specific and they could figure out what order you're referring to, I have the most deep respect for everyone who serves in the military, including you, sir, for the sacrifice that you made. I did not make that sacrifice myself. So I put everyone who makes that sacrifice in a very special place in my heart. And I believe they're there to serve the country. So you have put out this video. It's getting a lot of attention. I thank you for joining me to talk about it. And I think, people can look at it and take away from it what they want. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to be specific about what illegal actions you were referring to. So thank you for being here, Congressman, and thank you again for your service.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.